So you've decided that you're ready to start an antidepressant, but now you're wondering, which one is going to be the best for me? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you 8 factors that I commonly take into consideration with my patients when helping them select an antidepressant. Factor number 1 to consider are your current symptoms. There are many antidepressants to choose from, and what we see is that some medications are better at targeting certain symptoms than others. So for example, if you're having trouble, say, falling asleep, choosing a medication that is known to be more sedating could be a good option. So something we'd consider starting would be like mirtazapine or trazodone. But if you're struggling with, say, low energy and motivation, you might benefit from an antidepressant that has more activating properties, so something like Wellbutrin or Effexor. So during your evaluation, it's always helpful for your physician to know about some of the secondary symptoms of anxiety or depression that you're struggling with. The second factor to look at are your past medication trials. If you've tried an antidepressant in the past that was helpful in improving your symptoms, trying that medication again could make sense, right? On the other hand, it's also as equally important to know which medications didn't help you, whether it was due to it being ineffective or if it was due to you having intolerable side effects. My goal is always to find the medication that will give you the most bang for your buck. So we want it to be both effective in treating symptoms and in giving you the least amount of side effects possible. Now that we're on the topic of side effects, factor number 3 to consider are the various side effect profiles of the antidepressants you're choosing between, right? Side effects will vary from medication to medication and from person to person. But with that being said, some antidepressants are more notorious than others for causing issues. So for example, Paxil or paroxetine is typically regarded as being kind of the problem child of the SSRIs because of its potential to cause things such as weight gain, sedation, sexual dysfunction, and withdrawal symptoms with missed doses. So make sure to ask your doctor about the potential side effects of medications that you're considering. So before we talk about other factors to consider, make sure to check out the link below if you want to download my free antidepressant beginner's guide, because in this, I answer your most common medication questions in addition to breaking down the pros and the cons of the top 10 antidepressants that are currently being prescribed today. So if you're looking to feel better faster, this is definitely something you'll want to take a look at. Factor number 4 to consider are your other health conditions. We want to make sure that your antidepressant won't worsen any medical or psychiatric conditions that you've been previously diagnosed with. For the females out there, it's also important to know if you're planning to become pregnant, are currently pregnant, or are breastfeeding, because some medications like Zoloft or sertraline are often more preferred than others. Also, don't forget that some antidepressants are double whammy medications and that they can treat multiple conditions. So for example, Cymbalta is commonly used to treat not only depression, but also to help relieve pain symptoms or fibromyalgia. And Wellbutrin is another good example of this type of medication. Other things that it can treat include things like smoking cessation or symptoms of ADHD. The 5th factor that I'm constantly asking about is whether or not your family members, particularly your first-degree relatives, right? So your parents, siblings, or children are taking antidepressants. Sometimes we like to use genetics to our advantage, and what works for them might also be what works for you. Now, the 6th factor that I like to ask about is whether or not you're someone who is going to have a hard time remembering to take your medication every day. And if you are, then you're going to want to choose an antidepressant with a longer half-life, right? Such as Prozac or fluoxetine. And avoid medications with shorter half-lives, ones like Paxil or paroxetine. If you're on a medication with a short half-life and you forget to take it for a day or two, you might feel it because you're going to be at high risk of experiencing withdrawal-like symptoms. So things like agitation, anxiety, insomnia, flu-like symptoms, and the list goes on and on. So be honest with your doctor when talking about your difficulties with medication compliance. Factor number 7 to think about are the other medications you're currently taking. Some antidepressants are notorious for having drug-drug interactions, and this has the potential to lead to serious adverse reactions. So make sure your doctor knows about the other medications that you're currently being prescribed, in addition to ones that you may be obtained over the counter. The 8th factor that you need to take into consideration is the cost of the medication. You'll always want to do a little digging and check with your insurance company on whether or not your medication is going to be covered. Some of the newer and fancier antidepressants will will only have brand versions available, and they could be very expensive if not covered by your insurance. But the good thing is that the majority of first-line medications that we commonly use today have generic options available. So make sure to talk about this further with your doctor. And don't forget, always check for medication coupons or discounts, whether it's on the drug manufacturer's website or another site like GoodRx. Now that you know about some of the important factors we take into consideration when selecting an antidepressant, the next question we need to answer is, how long will it take for your antidepressant to start working? Make sure to click that top video to find out.